Great morning, family. I am Tanya Brooks, your FBA Community Folk Herbalist. It is Monday morning, May the 19th. I hope everybody had a great weekend. We did. I did. We got a lot done, a lot accomplished this weekend. So let me start off by saying, please make sure all of my lives that you go on my Homegrown Wellness 72 community YouTube channel and watch these lives in their entirety. Make sure you hit the like, the share, subscribe if you have not subscribed. We are now at 81 subscribers. Yes, and I know we can get to 100 by the end of the month. Also, I want to say that I am not any type of licensed therapist. I am not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, anything like that. But what I am is I am a concerned woman of today's time, and just want to share and encourage with the family. So when I talk about these situations, or I talk about these topics, just know that I am coming from a place of concern and a heartfelt concern. And whatever I'm talking about, know that it is something that I have dealt with personally, rather be me personally, someone in my family. So in that aspect, I feel that yes, I can talk about these topics. So this morning's topic is May. I'm a little late, but mental health awareness. And May being Mental Health Awareness Month. And also I'm going to definitely talk about the basis of this month, and that is having a healthy mental health and mental illness. And in saying all of that, I myself have started therapy this month, and I'm proud to say that. I am proud to say that not only am I one to live the life of herbal health and wellness, wholeness, physical health and wellness, but definitely a whole mental health is imperative for me in my life. And so I started therapy this month, and I didn't start therapy this month because it's mental health awareness. This is just the way it happened and the way it panned out. So there are specific herbs, obviously, that will support your mental health, and I will talk about those specific herbs as well. But it's just important that your mental health be dealt with. And if you are dealing with any type of mental illness, what is mental illness? Mental illness has been labeled as being suffering from anxiety, being psychotic, depression. Anger is a form of mental illness. Rather people want to talk about it or not. I think that might actually be one of the biggest one of the biggest parts of why people suffer from mental illness. And it is the onset of all of those other things that I've labeled: anxiety, depression, bipolarism, things like that. Anger, I think, is what sets the precedent for mental illness. And I'm going to talk about mental illness and mental wellness and what it looks like in Black men. And I'm doing that specifically because there's been situations in men in my life that have definitely suffered from mental illness. And in the culture, it has gone unchecked. And or it has gone to where people are saying, oh, well, he's just a man and that's just what they do. When in fact, trauma stemming from their childhood that has never been dealt with has led to anger, and now you're having this man suffering from mental illness. And also, I definitely feel that, and again, I am in no way a licensed physician. I'm not. But, you know, people throw around this term narcissist. And if you look up the definition of a narcissist, to me, it's parallel with, and most narcissists that people speak about tend to be men or happen to be a male. And in my opinion, they have mental illness. And that's narcissism, or that narcissist that stems from undealt with travel trauma from a child, and different types of abuse that they suffered from. And I feel that them being a narcissist is a way in which they cope with that trauma that they've experienced as a child. And now that they're a man, you see them acting out or lashing out in physical abuse, being a physical abuser, a mental abuser, an emotional abuser, a liar, a cheater. But then again, and I'm talking about Black men. I'm not talking about any other race of men. And the reason why I'm talking about Black men is because my father was a Black man. My brother was a Black man. My husband is a Black man. And I have Black men in my family members. And I've dealt with Black men my entire life. So mental illness in Black men, it is very much not dealt with. And again, you will always hear the common phrase, like, if there's a man like my father who was an abuser, physical abuser, emotional abuser, to my mother, that definitely stems from his not dealing with his trauma in his childhood. And so when you have a man, and this is the mental illness part, and I'm talking about my dad, when you have a man that physically beats his wife, the mother of his children, on a regular basis, and like it's normal, and then 2 days later acts as if this never happened in the household, and he and my mother would have conversation like this never happened, and she would have like a black eye, a bruise from what took place 2 days ago. That is mental illness. And that's also mental illness on my mother's. There was mental illness. She was dealing with mental illness because she was acting like this didn't take place. And these things need to be addressed, and they need to be talked about. And people need to seek medicinal support with herbs. They need to seek professional help with your physicians, doctors. And if it's to a point where they are will physically harm themselves or their loved ones, they more than likely need to get some type of medical help, prescribed medical help, just to bring them to a balance. So my father definitely suffered from mental illness. And I recently, like I said, reached out and started therapy myself this month because I recognized how my childhood experience with my parents was or had crept into my adulthood as a wife, as a mother, right? And I'm like, nah, I need to address these things, and I need to seek out the help that's needed. And one of the worst things that someone can do when they're experiencing mental illness, and again, anxiety, depression, being psychotic, physically abusive, being bipolar, manic depressive. Have a good day. Remember, you got practice. Love you. Is some of the worst things that they can do is they can, when they're experiencing these things, they go ahead, I love you too, and they start consuming drugs, alcohol, because this just heightens the mental illness. And again, I want to bring it back to the black man and mental illness, and how you will have black men who are cheaters. They'll be married. I'm talking about my dad. They'll be married, or they'll be in a relationship, my brother, with their children's mother, and they will seek out other women. And that is a form of mental illness. It is. It's a form of mental illness, but we'll chalk it up and we'll just say, oh, well, he's just being a man. You know how men are, No, that's an excuse. And the black culture, my culture, we really need to acknowledge these issues in the culture and deal with them. So, I remember, I'm gonna give a quick situation of mental illness dealing with black men, and this is personal, and how this did not get checked, and a young woman ended up losing her life. So this definitely happened over 10 years ago. I want to say maybe 11 years ago. And at the time I was working in a different salon. And, but prior to that, there was a young woman who ended up losing her life. A young black woman. And I had known this young black woman since she was a young girl, maybe 11, 12 years old, because she was actually a customer of mine. Because like I said, I did hair, and she actually was one of my customers. Her and her mother were customers of mine at my first hair salon. And so always a very quiet young lady. Now, mind you, I'm dealing with mental illness in the black culture, black men in particular, and how it ultimately ended this young black woman's life. And years later, I'm in this other salon. I'm working in a different salon, and I would see this young customer of mine. She was no longer my customer, but she was a patron of another stylist in the salon that I was in. And I would see her back and forth, and would speak to her. But she also worked at a car dealership in the local town, in the area where I live. And it it was interesting because about maybe a year or two before this young woman was murdered, I had went with a cousin of mine to purchase a vehicle, and this young woman was like the financing person at the dealership, and I seen her and I'm like, hi, how are you doing? She looked great, da 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 da. Fast forward a year or two afterwards, I see her going in and out of the salon where I'm working, and she was a customer to another stylist, or actually a barber. And I guess she had broken up with her ex. So this particular day, I was not working, and her, along with a friend of hers and her friend's son, were in the barbershop part of the salon where I worked. But again, this day I was not working. And excuse me, her ex, I guess she had broken up with her ex, had come in and started arguing with her, was very aggressive with her, and pulled her out of the barbershop. Now, mind you, he's a black man, and he took her into his vehicle, and the barbers, and there was well over 5 barbers that were in there when he was arguing with her and was being aggressive with her, and they allowed him to take her out, and they watched him argue with her in the car. He drove off with her. Mind you, he did not come with her. So I'm talking about mental illness because I don't understand for the life of me how 5 to 6 barbers and they're all black barbers, men, how they would allow this other black man to come in, argue with this young lady, and she's saying, like, you know, we're not together no more, whatever, and they let him, like, physically pull her out instead of stepping in. We're dealing with mental illness, because at this point they all should have been like, you need to leave, you're not doing this to this black woman. But because of their own mental illnesses, they turned and act as if it wasn't happening. This black man drove off with this black woman, held her hostage, I think they said, for 2 to 3 days in his home. He physically raped, abused, and strangled her to death. And that's that, right? But she also was dealing with mental illness because she had been in a relationship with this person who was physically abusive to her. She didn't fight and tell him, no, you can't take me, I'm not allowing you to take me out of here. She didn't fight. So that in itself, she went along with it. That in itself, there's mental illness there. And for him to be in a public place and display his anger and not care, that's mental illness. So that's just an example of how mental illness, when unchecked and not dealt with, has plagued and will continue to plague. And I'm just talking about my black men. That's just one example. You know, and we don't talk about these things, and we don't hold ourselves accountable. I'm talking about the black community. We don't hold ourselves accountable, and we just say, oh, well, they just crazy, Well, yeah, why are they crazy? Because crazy is real, right? We've prettied up crazy, and now we're saying it's mental illness. Back in the day, we used to be like, yo, so-and-so is mental, which was another word of, crazy, right? But now we like I said, we prettied it up and we call it mental illness, and that's fine. So, listen, you know what issues you are and you are not dealing with. For your sake, your loved one's sake, if you need to reach out and get support for mental illness, please do so. Because the thing what I found out with mental illness is it just builds and it builds and it builds and it builds, and a person will snap. And after they've snapped and they've harmed another individual, they don't even realize a lot of times why they did what they did. And the thing of it is, I can't even say that this is an extreme case and it doesn't really happen, because it's not an extreme case. And it does happen more than not. Get yourself some help. All right. So just some herbs that help with depression, anxiety, being bipolar. I'm just going to give you a couple of herbs, and you can drink these herbs in a tea. You can get them in a tincture. They are California poppy. They are skullcap, lavender, chamomile, oh my gosh, this herb is, the mind is slipping, and it is one of the stinkiest herbs in life, and it is so great for being, if you're dealing with manic depression and or bipolar. It begins with a V, and I can't remember the name of it. But listen, family, this is just personal. I needed to come and talk to the family about this. Remember, get the help that you need to deal with your mental health. And by all means, if you are suffering from mental illness, get the help that you need. And if you have family members that have made the suggestion to you, they're doing it because they care and they love you. All right, remember, be great to yourself because you are great. Be great to your family because they deserve your greatness. Be great to your community. Without love, self-love first, we have absolutely nothing. And as always, clarity is key. But without consistency, we have no balance. Family, be well.